So what is meant by a framework? And a framework is a set of instructions and guidelines you will follow to arrange your code in proper folder structure. That's what the framework. And framework will give you a lot of features. Why we need to go for a framework is because it is easy to use, easy to understand, easy to write the code, even new persons also. A novice resource is joining the team, he can understand the framework and he can write the code very easy. And another thing, more optimized code you can do that. Optimization of code you can achieve with the framework. And reusability of the code. Maintenance of the code is very easy. And it provides reports, it provides logs and screenshots, and that's all the features the framework is going to give you. So what are the different types of frameworks we have in the market? We have a data-driven framework, keyword-driven framework, hybrid framework. Apart from the unit testing frameworks, these are the customized frameworks. You have a unit testing frameworks like JUnit and TestNG, right? And TestNG is a widely used one, and JUnit also mostly people will use. And what is meant by data-driven framework? What is meant by data-driven testing? A data-driven testing means you have more data. You want to generate the more records in the application, then best suitable framework is a data-driven. So in your applications, wherever you want to generate more data, more records, you want to create, you want to update, you want to delete. So all this kind of repeated scenario, but different sets of data you want to give, and such kind of scenarios you have in your application, go for data-driven testing. So keyword-driven framework is something different than data-driven. Keyword-driven means you will write all the methods. Each method you will control from the Excel sheets. The method you will give a one keyword. Method name is your keyword. That keyword you will put it in the Excel sheet, and you can control from there which method you want to execute, which test case you want to execute or not. That's a keyword-driven framework. And hybrid framework. Hybrid framework is nothing but it's a combination of multiple frameworks. Multiple things will be there inside this hybrid framework. You can customize your framework. This is the more customized framework. That's a hybrid framework means. It is a combination of TestNG, data-driven or keyword-driven, and page object model design pattern. That is called hybrid framework. So we are going to discuss on this hybrid framework, because as in the hybrid framework, you are getting a data-driven again, and this page object model, and TestNG is common. And so each one, let me explain in this hybrid framework what is meant by TestNG. So as we discussed already, TestNG is used to design your test cases, and data-driven is used to test the same scenario with multiple sets of data. Then what is a POM? Page object model design pattern. Page object model is a design pattern. How to design your web elements, how to design your web objects, how to design your page elements. That will be clearly explained by this page object model design pattern. We can design the page object model in two ways. One is plain page object model, another one is a page factory class you can use. In Selenium, you have a page factory class. That class provides a static method, initElements method, which initializes all the page objects. Basically, till now we are writing object identification directly in the code, right? In the framework, you are not going to do that. You're going to separate each and everything. You will organize your code in a folder structure. The components you will create, the controllers you will create in your project, everything will go in the controller wise, component wise. That's what the framework means. So you're not going to write everything in the one test case class. No, that's not going to happen here. And everything will be separated. That's what the framework. So that is easy for the people to work and understand, and easy to run your code. That's what the framework means. So How we design the web pages elements, web page elements. First one is a plain page object model we can use. So what is this plain page object model? You will just identify your element in like this: public static final by element name equal to by dot locator locator, and this element name you will call and will perform actions on these elements. So you'll write all the elements of that particular page. You'll create one page class. Suppose home page.java. We'll create a just particular page name you will give for your class, Java class. At the end, you will give a name page. So to differentiate the test cases and page classes, you will give home page.java, search page.java, logged in page.java, add to cart page.java. Like this, you will give a class names with ending with a page keyword. That's your class names. So that page related elements you will identify and write in this format. Then respect to methods developed for the identified elements in the same class. You will write a methods, like what methods, what action you are going to do on that element. Click action, like type action, or getting the text, or verifying the page title. So all this, that page related elements and actions will be there. So that just catch this whoops concept here. One whoops concept is here. So you have a class contains all your fields and methods and bind it together. So what kind of whoops concept is this?
Encapsulation.
That's the answer. Where and all used your Java whoops concepts. Everything from Java. Question will come from Java, and where you have implemented this Java concept in Selenium automation, they will ask. That's what the answers I'm giving here. In the page classes, you have all the elements as attributes or members of a class, and then respective methods on that element. And that's what the encapsulation, how you are using inside the page class. And okay, my element is identified, then how I can do action. So this is the plain non-static methods you will write. Public void click element, click on this element, the element name you are going to give, right? Click on login button or click on forget password link, like this you will write. Then you will write below this method inside driver dot find element. You don't need to write again by dot locator, all those things, because already this by dot locator means this element. So just write that element name dot click. This is the plain page object model format. Either you can use this format or you have a second format, that is page factory class. So first you create a class, then you create a constructor, and the constructor inside you write page factory class dot init elements of driver comma this page, this keyword. This is coming from Java. This keyword, what it will refer? What is meant by this keyword?
This refers current class members.
That's super. This refers to current class members, current class objects, this page elements, this page objects. We can say objects. It initializes the objects. That's the constructor. And then you're going to use @find by annotation to identify your elements. @find by annotation we are going to use to identify our elements. Then use all the locators. Locator equal to locator value. So what are all the locators?
ID, name, CSS class, CSS selector, class path, class XPath, class name, tag name, link text, partial link text.
So these are the locators. So those locators you can give here, and then below immediately you have to write private web element name. You are getting directly web element here. You don't need to write again driver dot find element again. You are directly getting a web element here. Like that, all that page elements you identify using this format. So I have multiple elements I identified. Now, after you identified all the elements of that page, not other page, only that page elements only you can keep here. Then write the respective methods for those elements. What action you want to perform on that elements, you write the methods. All non-static methods you will write. And then public void click element method, then curly braces. See that element dot click. So then what is the difference between above one and below one? Can you catch this? What is the difference between this method and both are click methods only? And what about this? So what is the difference? Did you ever observe the difference? So what is the difference between this method, this plain page object model concept, and this one is page factory concept? What is the difference? So here you are identifying the element by a variable. So this is still not a variable, just this is not an element. It's just a one variable. But here you're directly getting a web element. And here you're using a find by annotation, but here you're not using a find by annotation. Two differences are given in single line. What is the first difference? It's just a variable. And here you're getting a web element directly. That's not a web element. This is not a web element. This element, this variable data type is a by data type. But here you are directly getting a web element here. And here you are not using @find by annotation, but here you are using @find by annotation to identify your element. Two differences in single line. Next, in the methods. In the plain page object, what is you writing driver.find element. But here I'm not writing at all driver.find element. I got directly web element here. So element dot the method name I'm writing. I don't need to write driver.find element here. It's a lengthy code. I don't need to do that. This is the three differences you have. And again, you're using so init elements method, static method of this class to initialize that. That's what we are seeing here. Okay. Anyhow, fine. So page factory annotation provides a @cache lookup annotation is used to mark the web elements once located so that the same instance in the DOM can always be reused. Cache lookup attribute can be used to instruct the init elements method to cache the element once it has located so that it will not be searched over and over again in the web page. That's advantage with the cache lookup. You can use just above this find by, just write @cache lookup. @cache lookup you can use so that it will cache that element and it won't look for the again and again one more time, and it will speed up your execution also. That's what this cache lookup. So that's a page object how you can design. Then what is the structure of hybrid framework? So this is the structure of hybrid framework. And hybrid framework means you have a collection of TestNG plus data driven framework plus page object model. So these three combination I'm going to create here and with the different components. The first component is the base component, and the base component is com.qa.project name.base. You can give this is the package name. The first component, first you'll create the project. A project below you will create the package. This is the package name. Each package is a one component here. So this base package, I'm going to create a test base class. In the test base class, we are going to write a initializing your browser, initializing your application, and closing your browser. Any global methods you want to do, such kind of methods you will do here in the test base class. This is the base for all our test cases and pages. That's the first component. So which extends, this test base class extends to your test cases. So here you are using extends means what kind of oops concept you are using?
Inheritance.
Inheritance. Each test case class you have to extend to test base, because automatically browser initialization code will be here. You don't need to write in every test case class browser initialization code. That's how we did till now. that is going to be avoided in the framework. Only one class in the test-based class you are going to write, and that will be extended to your test cases. Automatically it will first initialize from here only, from test base itself it will initialize, and it will be called for every test case, because every test case class must be extended to this test base class. This is the parent class for all your test case classes, so that all the properties of this test base you can use. That's the inheritance. So this is another interview question, where you have used inheritance in your automation. So you can tell this point. So what is the answer you have to give? So we have a test-based class where all our browser initialization, browser closing, and reading properties. So such kind of methods you will develop under test base, and then you will extend this test base to your test case classes. Automatically, before running your test case, first your browser will launch and application will launch, and that code you are avoiding writing in each and every test case class. And if you extend, and that can be accessible automatically. That's an inheritance. Second component, com.qa.projectname.pages. All the page classes you will write under this component. You will write under this component, homepage.java. So all homepage related elements you will write, and you will use either plain page object model or page factory class to implement these page elements. Just now I explained. The same you will do in the second component. So like this, then you extend one base class I'm going to write here, that is all the WebDriver methods, and I'm going to place in this package. That base class will be extended to every page class. So another inheritance is going to come here. So here I'm going to use a multi-level inheritance I'm going to use here. First, my base page web contains all the WebDriver methods. That class will extend to this test base class. Then the base page web will be extended to each page class. So that I can access test base class, base page web class methods in this pages classes. This is a multi-level inheritance I'm going to use here. This all complete Java, the framework. Complete OOPS concepts is crucial in the framework design. That's a second component. And third component is com.qa.project.config. The config package, I'm going to create a config.properties file. A properties file I'm going to create here, all my global properties like my browser and application URL, usernames, password, that I need to use for globally for our entire project inside. So I'll put all the data in this place. So I'll put in this .properties file, and from this file I can access. So because I have written here read properties from this file, the properties file, so I can read the data by this method. Because I already extending this class to pages and my test cases, whichever property I want, I'll just call that method. That method will give you the value of that key value. You just give the key and value you will get from the properties file. That's a third component. And fourth component is, if you are doing a data driven testing, you need a data, right? You need to store the data in the Excel sheet formats. So that's the fourth component, com.qa.project.data, which contains all the data related files. Either it is Excel sheet or CSV files or whatever the file format you store the data, that kind of files you can put under this component. And then fifth component is com.qa.project.util, all your utility classes like test util classes, which contains, you can write the reusable methods of taking the screenshot, and then Excel utils, all Excel. You want to read the data from Excel files, you want to write the data to the Excel files, so that all Excel utils related I'm going to write under this Excel utils.java file. So all utility classes you can write here. A lot of utility methods we have written, right? Those utility methods you can place it here under this util class. And this class, this test util class will extend to this test base. So whichever driver you need to use from here. So driver I'm going to define here one time only. I can reuse in all the places. You don't need to write in every class. Once you extend all the parent class properties, you can use in the child classes. So again, inheritance is going to come here. And that's the fifth component, which contains all utility methods. What are the utility methods? It is related to Excel sheets, or it is related to your WebDriver, or it is related to generic methods, or kind of methods you can keep under this util package, util component. And sixth one is listeners. So listeners com.q.project.listeners. The listeners component is a very, very important to avoid the duplicate code. So for example, I want to find the status of my test case. So there are many test cases in the class, right? TestNG class. How can you get each test case status? So that listeners will help you. We have two types of listeners. One is TestNG listeners and WebDriver listeners. Here we are going to use TestNG listeners to find the status of each and every test case and get the report properly. And then seventh component is very, very important component, com.qa.project.test cases. So your every scenario can be automated using TestNG annotations, and each step you can automate using TestNG annotations here in the test component. You will create a TestNG class. There you will write all your annotation related scenario steps. That's a seventh component. And last component, reports. So you can write TestNG reports, you will get by default. And then extent reports. We're going to do extent reports from this listeners itself. I'm invoking, and that extent reports also you can get, and you will get that. And last one, log4j, logging purpose. You need to log your messages. Then this log4j is going to be very helpful for us. So log the messages. You can use log4j, and it will give you the nice report, any exceptions you're getting while executing your code. This log4j will help us. This log4j related things I'm going to include. So these are all the different components of your hybrid framework. And this is the same structure we're going to design tomorrow in the Eclipse.